Before the end of the century, California could be hit by flooding as severe as the notorious Great Flood of 1862, which left a 300-mile-long stretch of the state submerged underwater. And it could happen more than once. A new study has warned that California could soon see dramatic shifts between extreme dry and wet weather, in a phenomenon known as climate whiplash. In the next few decades, the researchers warn the chances of a flood-triggering storm sequences will rise dramatically, putting the state at risk of trillion-dollar disasters that leave homes under up to 30 feet of water. Scroll down for video. I don't think most people in California really have a grasp of the magnitude of this kind of event, said lead author Daniel Swain, a climate scientist at UCLA's Institute of the Environment and Sustainability. Millions of people living in the Central Valley, at a minimum, had to leave for a while, and many could actually have their homes under 20 or 30 feet of water. This includes much of Sacramento. And all of these other cities in the Central Valley are much bigger than when they used to be. And there are all of these sprawling suburbs in regions that were historically vast natural floodplains. The worrying new study published to the journal Nature Climate Change predicts extreme flooding events will become more common in the near future, as will the extreme shifts between wet and dry weather. Those are actually huge changes occurring, they're just on opposite ends of the spectrum, said Swain. If you only look for shifts in average precipitation, you're missing all of the important changes in the character of precipitation. The combination of the warming atmosphere and warming oceans will drive more water vapor into the air, the researchers explained. This, in turn, will lead to greater precipitation. When a storm gets going, air converges at low levels, carrying more water vapor with it. With more vapor to dump, the result is more rainfall, said Professor David Neelan. The changing climate could leave the state 300 to 400% more likely to see storm sequences comparable to that which caused the major flood over 150 years ago. The prospect of another flood like the Great Flood of 1862 is known as the other big one, in a nod to California's earthquake risk. We may be going from a situation where an event as big as 1862 was unlikely to occur by the end of the century to a situation where it may happen more than once, Swain said. Given the magnitude of California's population today, the effects of such a flood would be much worse. Both humans and wildlife would be hard hit, causing far more sudden damage than drought. People tend not to die in droughts in places with a developed economy, Swain said. People do still die in floods. It happened this year and last year in California, during an event of a magnitude similar to the 1862 flood. A lot of lives would be at risk. While major floods like this happen only a handful of times each century, the warming atmosphere could change this. But under these projections, it would go from something that happens maybe once in a generation to something that happens 2 or 3 times, Swain said. Even if we are lucky and manage to avoid a repeat of 1862, these lower magnitude events could still seriously test the limits of our water infrastructure. The study also predicts the state will see more frequent cases of climate whiplash, along with abrupt transitions from wet weather to dry weather, thought to increase in frequency by 50 to 100%. The main problem with climate models is uncertainty. In particular, something called the Equilibrium Climate Sensitivity Measure has been causing scientists a headache. This is a highly influential measure that describes how much the planet will warm if carbon dioxide doubles and the Earth's climate adjusts to the new state of the atmosphere. Studies have found a wide range of possibilities for this key measure, somewhere between 1.5 and 4.5 degrees Celsius. With 3 degrees Celsius. Most scientists try to constrain ECS by looking at historical warming events. For the last 25 years, the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, the ultimate authority on climate science, has settled on a likely range of 1.5 degrees Celsius to 4.5 degrees Celsius, 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit to 8.1 degrees Fahrenheit. Warming less than 1 degree Celsius is extremely unlikely and more than 6 degrees Celsius is considered very unlikely. A panel has concluded. However, some scientists dispute this figure. The most dramatic changes will be seen in Southern California. And the phenomenon could lead to more extreme wildfires. If vegetation remains dry into October and November, the early rainy season, it could line up with a warm, dry Santa Ana winds. The most dangerous combination historically is in September and October, when it's really dry but the winds are starting to pick up, Swain said. What if it had started raining in October or November? Would the Thomas fire have even broken out? Would it have burned so quickly? Or so intensely? The lack of autumn rains last year were a big part of the equation.